every time I get in one of these cars and stomp on the accelerator and just zoom, right? I'm like, this is so much fun.
Yeah.
That makes me optimistic because these cars are, yes, they help you save money. Yes, they help save the planet. But they're just more fun. Yeah. They're better. I think that the more people experience this, the more they'll tell other people that.
Yeah.
And the more that other folks will be like, oh yeah, it's a car. It's not politics. And it's like, I should just get one of these because it's just better.
One, two, three, four.
You're listening to Granite Goodness, the show about optimism, progress, and problem solving in and around New Hampshire. My name is Andy DeMeo, and today I'll be coming to you from Northampton, New Hampshire, where I talk to Jesse Lohr. Jesse is the founder and owner of GreenWave Electric Vehicles, New Hampshire's first dedicated electric vehicle dealership. We talk about Jesse's commitment to great customer service, why he loves electric cars and hip-hop music, why he left New Hampshire, what brought him back, and the many other things that make GreenWave EV such a wonderful, fun place to get a car. All that and much more on this episode of Granite Goodness. I hope you enjoy it. Jesse Lohr, welcome to Granite Goodness.
Great to be here, Andy. Thank you so much. I'm a big fan of the show and a big fan of what you're doing, so thanks for having me.
It's been really fun just to hang out in, do you call this your shop? Your dealership? What do you call this place? Your showroom, yeah.
Dealership, yeah. I guess there's, for lack of a better word.
It has the feel of a place where you make things happen.
Yes.
You know?
Yes. Well, and where we grow things, right?
Yeah.
So what's the first thing when you walk in the door that strikes you? Most people, it's the plants.
There's plants everywhere.
Right? There's plants everywhere.
The color green is apparent. You know, I was curious about, like, I've never been here. You're serious about the Green Wave.
Oh, yeah. No, absolutely.
Let's dig into that a little bit. Let's go into you must be tired of people making jokes about your name, but can you take us into the lore for GreenWave?
Sure, where we came with the name?
Yeah.
Well, you know, I think on some level, look, the name really came out of a brainstorming process. Like, we came up with a bunch of names, and this one fit the most of what we're trying to do. And that is, you know, it is a revolution happening in our society. It's a transition to clean energy, and it's people waking up to the fact that we can reduce our carbon impact, that we need to reduce our carbon impact, and we can reduce our carbon impact with more environmentally friendly practices to address the climate crisis that is increasingly affecting us all.
Yeah.
And so that wave is a process. I'll also say that on some levels, I feel like we are a transitional business, right?
Sure.
Because, you know, I sometimes say we're a Radio Shack.
Yeah.
Because, you know, you remember Radio Shack, it's like people had their first hi-fi home setups,
right,
and they needed like little wires and clips and things to, like, you know, now you don't need that anymore because everything's like integrated. But like someday someday relatively soon, every used car dealer will be an electric used car dealer, right? And you won't need a company that specifically focuses on like teaching people about electric cars and helping them make that transition. But we're here to help that wave that needs to wash over our society.
Right.
You know?
Well, it's a cool thing to hear you say that, and that's the impression that I've gotten, you know, and just kind of, I'm an EV owner myself.
Yeah, man.
I'm taking advantage, you know, we geeked out about my Chevy Bolt that's out there charging generously on your electric here. But, you know, that's the sense I've gotten, right, in that, like, part of the beauty of, you know, being the early adopter, right, of this new tech, I feel like, is that it's not, sure, everything's a competition, everything's a market, but, like, there is a really cool non-zero-sum way that you can think about it, right, in that, like, the more people who get interested in electric vehicles, the more people who, you know, show up, drive the demand for it, that helps incentivize the new infrastructure coming along, right, and really helps build out all this new stuff that we need to make the electrification of vehicles like successful, right? So I like that, like, yeah, competition's good, we do it, but really we're cooperating in this, you know,
you
larger
hit the
way.
nail on the head, and that's something that's so important that not a lot of folks get. I'll tell you, we have a competitor who's in Tewksbury, Massachusetts called Eco Auto. And I met him recently at a conference, and he was like, I've been avoiding you, man, because I didn't want to meet you. I didn't want to like you, and because you're my competition.
Sure.
And I said to him, I said, look,
Yeah.
by 2030, just in New Hampshire alone, you're in Massachusetts, just in New Hampshire alone,
Right.
they're saying 50% of new car registrations are going to be EV, right? So there's close to 100,000 cars registered in New Hampshire every year. So that would means close to 50,000 EVs. If we get half of that,
Yeah.
we'll be stoked,
Right.
man.
Yeah, that would be great.
Like
actually.
we need more of us because, and here's the difference: we're on a mission.
Yeah.
Right. So a lot of times people come here, they learn all about EVs, they drive a bunch of EVs, and they go out and buy a brand new one somewhere because they've got the extra scratch. Right. And to us, yeah, that hurts because we can't pay the bills when people do that.
Right.
But it's still mission positive for us because if
Yeah.
they bought an EV because of something they learned here, well, then they're helping to save the world, and we contribute to that.
Yeah.
So,
Yeah. And downstream, right? All the reasons people have not to get them, they get less and less important, right?
Exactly.
It's like, oh, I don't have not to dig right into it, but like I have an EV, I live in northern New Hampshire, okay? It's fine. I make it work.
Yeah.
I made a dumb like LinkedIn post the other day about this, and it was surprisingly like people liked it. They responded to it. It was like it was a very popular post of like at my Christmas tree, and I was like, you can have an EV in northern New Hampshire, and look, I would love to have more charging infrastructure up there. We need more of that everywhere, but it's getting to like we could go down this whole thread. I like my EV much more than I liked any other car that I've had.
Oh, yeah.
And there's so many reasons for that.
Oh, yeah. Well, a couple things. So I talk to a ton of people about their driving habits, as you might imagine, right?
Yeah.
Because the first thing when somebody comes in here, I'm saying, so what do you drive and how much do you drive?
Right.
And I say, do you drive a lot? And people are, oh, yeah, I drive a lot.
Right.
Okay, cool. Like, what's your longest day?
Right.
And they're like, well, I got to go from Pelham to Concord, and then I got to go from Concord to Manchester, and then I got to go back to Concord, and then I got to go back to Pelham, and then I got to go to Salem and back. And I'm like, okay, so let's map that out.
Right.
That ends up being like 110 miles.
Yeah, that's doable. That's
so
doable.
So it's like our shortest range car is 140 miles.
Right.
Right. You could still get it on that.
Yeah.
But our most affordable car has 250 miles of range. It's an
Right.
older Chevy Bolt.
Yeah.
And after the tax credit, you can you can
it's-
afford that, and it's $11,000, right? And you're still gonna have 100 miles of range, and so that starts to open people up to it. But to your point, it's that downstream stuff because
Right.
if they hear me say it, of course I'm gonna say it because I'm trying to sell a car.
Right.
They think I'm just selling a car. Right.
Yeah.
They learn that we're a little bit more than that.
Right.
But when they hear their buddy say it, when they hear Andy DeMeo say it, then they're like, "That I'm gonna believe."
That's right. Yeah. No, they hear. I mean, it's been fun. Like even just some of my friends, they don't. I've had this car for a year, and a lot of them don't even understand. They're like actually just the other night, and they're not going to listen to the show. So I can be honest. I hope you listen to it, Grace Downey. She's my friend up at Tampa. She's like, "Oh, you have an electric car?" And I was like, "Yeah." She's like, "Fully electric?" And I was like, "Yeah, it's great." She was like, "Huh." There's the noise that people
Yep,
make when they hear that.
So can I riff on Tamworth for a second?
Sure, by all
So
means.
Tamworth, beautiful town. Love Tamworth. We actually have quite a bit of a following up in Tamworth, right?
Really?
We have several people who have bought cars from us in Tamworth, and it mostly stems from the Tamworth Energy Committee. Energy committees are something that towns have all
Yeah.
across the state. They're awesome. Hosted at Club Power Sports last spring, an EV show.
I almost brought my car to that.
It was sick.
At some dumb reason, I didn't go to it. I was this close to bringing my car to it.
It was unbelievable because we got to race on the Club Power Sports track. We brought the fastest cars we had.
Okay.
We brought a Tesla Model S Performance.
It was a mistake not to go.
Yeah, we brought a Polestar Launch Edition. We had a Kia EV6. We had a Mustang Mach-E. And we were ripping around that track.
Wow.
And a couple of those people came down within a month or two after, and bought cars from us, and then they told their friends, and then their friends bought cars, and
Yeah.
then somebody walked in from Tamworth one day and they're like, I want to buy a car. Where are you from? Tamworth. Oh, you know this person. So it's a small community,
It's
right?
perfect, yeah.
But it's really growing as a locus of EV owners.
That's going to make so many people so happy that you just said that. I didn't see that's cool. I had no idea that you were involved. I heard about this thing. There's the Tamworth Exchange, which is this infamous email listserv group
Yeah,
that's
yeah,
like people
yeah.
post like, I need help bringing plants across the street. Come help me. And like people do it. That's, you see all kinds of things up there. And, this event happened and my wife told me about it and we were like, oh, that's the coolest thing ever. I did not know that you were like, you involved in it.
EV events, community engagement is so critical to our success, and it's one of the most fun things we do.
Yeah.
So my wife works in marketing. She's a brilliant marketer. She works for a great company based out of Portsmouth. We've spent gobs and gobs of money on internet marketing. We spend thousands of dollars a month on that.
It's not Rocker Creative, is it?
No.
Okay. It's the only one I know.
No, it's not them. It's Vital, awesome company.
Yeah.
She works for Vital. But here's the problem, Andy, is that our ROI on that marketing is so much lower than our ROI from going to real events like that.
Sure.
Right, where people are genuinely interested. They're there for a reason. We get
Yeah.
to connect with them, talk to them, show them who we are, where we're at. We get to differentiate ourselves from the regular car dealers because
Yeah.
like the new car dealers that are there, it always feels a little bit like the sales reps who are repping the EVs there are the ones who are being punished for not selling enough ICE cars the
Right.
previous months.
Yeah,
They're like,
exactly.
go try to sell some EVs at this EV show, bro.
Yeah.
And
Yeah,
so
yeah,
they're
yeah.
like, yeah, it's a car.
You've seen it before.
Yeah, exactly. But we're different. We have a different vibe, rocking the
Yeah.
hoodies and stuff,
Yeah, yeah, yeah.
and so those events have been huge for us, mostly to get the word out,
Right.
and then the referral business has been awesome. We're
Yeah.
grateful for it.
Well, I feel like, you must run into this all the time. People have a sleazy opinion of, like used car
Oh,
salesman
yeah.
is a whole, it's a term.
It's a category.
It's a whole thing,
Yeah.
and I feel like you're the opposite of every bad characteristic, that people would bring out a phrase like that for, you're rehabilitating the image of the used car salesman.
Yeah, well, and I'll tell you. So I think in general, there's a huge problem with automotive retailing in the United States,
Sure.
right? And whether it's a new car dealership or a used car dealership, so much of it is about disempowering the purchaser, right?
Right.
The purchaser doesn't have enough information. You sit them down for a long time here, and you make them wait, and then you
Yeah.
put them through a cycle of steps and all that. And I've been through the trainings. Part of that, they have word tracks that are meant to distract you from the things that you need to know to make a
Right.
good financial decision. We're the flip side of that,
Right.
from a core belief, which is that if we are going to solve the climate crisis, even more than reducing people's use of fossil fuels, people need to feel empowered, like they can make a difference.
Right.
Because the first problem to solve is actually not carbon emissions. The first problem to solve is debilitating climate anxiety.
Sure.
Right, 'cause-
I agree.
You know what I'm saying?
Yeah, I do.
And like, what was, I get that you're also like, I'm someone who has a significant amount of climate anxiety. Like, do you have like sometimes?
Yeah, yes, because like this show and like my irrational focus on what I think is rational optimism is like my medicine.
Yeah.
For all that, it's like I will, to be overly honest with you, like my own anxieties about like, oh my God, like just really feeling overwhelmed by stuff I would see in the news, like that actually led me to this path
Yeah.
of saying, this isn't working for me. This has like broken my mind
Right.
and my spirit. There has to be people who are living out there, working on things they believe in, who are like psychologically healthier than this. And that led me to this whole world that really changed my life. And now I'm like, oh, this is a really unique, interesting, needed perspective of like, take a step back. Let's lead with optimism. Let's lead with solutions. And like, you feel better, but it's just a better way to get people
Yes.
interested in doing things too.
Yes.
So yes, that's my roundabout answer to like, I've had a lot of anxiety about big problems, climate being one of them. That led me to doing this.
Right. And that empowerment, right? Like you are now, you were able to empower yourself, and now you're empowering other people to tell their stories, and you're
Yeah.
empowering your listeners to give them ideas. And that's the idea around GreenWave, is that we want to empower people to take control of their personal transportation, their
Right.
costs and their carbon footprint with a vehicle that's more fun than what they have now, right?
Yeah.
And so, it's kind of a weird experience. Sometimes people come in here and we answer all their questions, we drive a couple cars, and they're like, so which one should I buy? Right? And so like, we're like, Well, you have to choose.
Right. Yeah.
Which one do you like?
We're not buying it. It's
You have to drive it,
Right.
and we'll help make recommendations, et cetera, et cetera. But I think that empowerment, disempowerment kind of enigma puzzle is something that we really have to solve
Yeah.
in order to, because it's going to take all of us.
Right.
It's going to take all of us to really tackle this. We're all going to want to do that, and I think the biggest thing that I see as a problem is people just think, can't solve it. It's not my problem.
Yeah.
Can't do anything.
Right.
And look, Andy, there are a lot of big problems in this world that I just have to say, I ain't got the energy for it, right?
That's I can't.
But this is one that I have some skills, some abilities,
Right.
some experience in automotive. And so and I'm so blessed and lucky to have assembled a team of folks that do a variety of things that
Yeah.
are also generally not from the car business.
Right.
And they're also really good at, supporting people and empowering people to make this decision. So although we don't make this explicit always, that we're trying to do this, we do empower people through the interaction. Our interaction is designed to empower people, whereas traditional car dealerships, new, used,
Yeah.
or otherwise, are to disempower people.
Right.
And I think it's reflected, you read our Google reviews.
Sure.
And they say, best car buying experience ever, because it
Right.
should be fun and empowering.
Yeah.
Because cars are kind of cool.
Right. Yeah.
So-
Well, even particularly again, you've thought a lot more about this than I have, right? But I think it matters that we do cars. It's an issue everywhere, but particularly in America, right? Maybe the most car centric nation in the world
Yeah.
ever, right? Cars are the thing here. It's a car centric infrastructure. All our transportation is built around cars, right? And downstream from that, everyone has a personal relationship. We name our cars.
Mm-hmm.
I've had a vanity plate for every car I've ever had. I love how cheap they are in here. Yeah, mine's people. My vanity plate is Domina.
Domina, yeah.
People, they're always is that a dominatrix kind of thing? And I'm like, no, it's not. It's I'm a big fan of Roman history.
Yeah.
And the female head of household in ancient Rome was called a domina. And the male was the dominus. And I love gladiators and all this stuff. So people they get the wrong idea from it. But
Yeah.
but I think it's cool.
Yeah.
That's what it is.
No, totally. But you're right on the car culture thing, man. I mean, look, there are a lot of climate advocates out there that say, well, we should just stop driving cars. We should just be biking.
Yeah.
And we should just be riding the bus and,
No.
things like that. And I'm like, our society is not set up for that.
Right.
It's not realistic.
We can move. There's lots of smart municipal planners who are trying to get us closer to that, but it's gonna take a long time.
Well, we were there was Portsmouth Climate Action, and the Portsmouth Sustainability Committee just had a night on climate, and they had somebody from the Rockingham Planning Commission. They had somebody from Coast Bus, which is the nonprofit
Yeah.
that serves with public transportation, and we had somebody from the Seacoast Area Bike Riders Coalition. And while I do appreciate that they, showed up at this event,
Right.
the Coast, they can't. They say they can't buy electric buses because they're twice as expensive as gas buses, and the range isn't where it needs to be. I
Right.
get it.
Sure.
Rockingham Planning Commission says they have little to nothing on their radar for transportation electrification.
Right.
And Seacoast Area Bikes. Bike riding is a partway solution, but that's 1%
Yeah.
of commuters
Right.
on the Seacoast.
Right.
So what's frustrating is that there's not a larger societal focus on that when carbon emissions in New Hampshire, 45% come from transportation.
I didn't know that. That's
45%.
That's
It's
a
the
big
biggest
slice.
It's the biggest slice. It's
Wow.
the biggest slice of our carbon emissions.
And
by far.
you're whacking away at it.
I'm whacking away at them. So,
Yeah.
so can I talk about how we measure our success?
By all means.
Awesome. So we measure our success not in terms of how many cars we sell. We have 3 mission metrics.
Sure.
So every time we plant every time we sell an EV, we deliver an EV, we plant 100 trees in that person's name. So we
That's
work
really cool.
We work with a nonprofit called One Tree Planted, and we give them a tree certificate. It comes through email, and they plant 100 trees in North America, afforestation for carbon capture.
Yeah.
And our second metric is how much we reduce people's carbon footprint, and we're at 1.1 million kilograms reduced so far this year.
That's a lot.
That's pretty awesome.
I don't know how many, like, if you have any, like, can you quantify that for someone? Like, what's that equivalent to roughly?
1.1 million kilograms. So so that would be like 2.4 million pounds. So 2 million pounds of CO2.
It's so much.
Right? It's like how much is an elephant? It's like 2,000 pounds.
Yeah.
Right? So it's like 1,000 elephants.
Right.
Like 1,000
Yeah,
elephants
that's
worth of
extraordinary.
carbon dioxide.
And that must be, I mean, in terms of like millions of miles driven in a typical internal combustion engine car, right?
Because that's what we do. We ask everybody, like, what are you driving now, even if they don't trade it in? What are you driving now? What are you getting for miles per gallon?
Yeah.
And how many miles do you drive per year? And so then you do that calculation, and you can figure out how much CO2. So we
Right.
count that as a reduction. We're at like 1.1 million kilograms. We measure it in kilograms. And then the third is how much we reduce their operating costs.
Sure.
Right? Because you think about it, I mean, are you saving money on gas and maintenance?
You have no idea.
Yes. You drive a lot.
So much. I
So
drive
much.
everywhere.
So much.
I haven't driven. This is going to be a great endorsement for the Chevy Bolt.
Yeah.
I picked up that car a year ago, drove it out of the dealership. I've done nothing to it.
Right.
I have not looked at the tires. I've not replaced the tires. No transmission or whatever, no realignment, like certainly no oil change, obviously, right? Like I just picked it up and drove it 30,000 miles.
30,000 miles.
Right, which is like
Awesome.
crazy.
That's a lot of driving.
Yeah.
That's a lot of driving. But you've probably saved, what were you driving before?
The car I was driving, again, is like a pretty efficient car. It's an unusual older car. It's a Honda CRZ, which is this weird car.
That was rare.
Yeah, they tried to combine the sports and a coupe with kind of a hybrid, and it's a great car for people who want it. But, that car gets like 40 miles per gallon even.
Sure.
And even at the price of like retail electricity, right, and it's expensive here in New Hampshire, as you know.
Yep.
I've done out the math, because as you know, to compare the cost of like, okay, what is like dollars per mile driven, right? You got to compare what's the electricity cost, what's the gasoline cost, how efficient is, each vehicle in terms of converting your gas to distance or your electricity to distance, right?
Mm-hmm.
You put all that into an Excel sheet, and even on a really efficient tiny car, it's a third to half the cost of the, what gas will move me. Like if I need to move 100 miles and I pay for electricity, from the grid to charge my car to do it versus buy the gasoline at the average price for the last couple of years, like, between $2.50 and $3.50 a gallon, doing an electric is at least half the cost of that, sometimes a third.
Oh, yeah. So you're saving thousands of dollars a year, right?
Easily.
And that's money that you're not like, it's what I love about this piece is that it's not like you're shifting your spend from carbon, for fossil fuels to non-fossil fuels.
Right.
Because you're doing that too. But those $2,000, $2,500 a year, that's real money back in your pocket that you could spend on whatever you want.
Oh, yeah.
Right?
Yeah.
I mean, it's back into your family's budget
Right.
every month. So that's our third metric, and we're up around $500,000 for members of our community that we've saved, that we've taken out of the hands of big oil, out of ExxonMobil's, P&L,
right,
and back into the community P&L for real people on the ground here.
Where it'll do a lot more good.
Yes.
For, the economy, I would argue. Anyway,
yes, for the local economy.
Right.
So those are our that's how we count success, and we're doing pretty well. We're I think we just took a deposit this afternoon, so I think we're at 39,700 trees that we'll plant this year.
That's so many trees.
It's a lot,
I can
right?
even conceive of that.
Right? Well, it's like they say it's like 40 trees per acre in your average kind of dense 40 full grown trees per acre. So that's like 1,000 acres of forest that we've helped start.
What's great about this? So, I have a passion for sustainability, and my email handle, like my personal email, is SaveTheTrees133.
Nice.
And that's been, it's like your AIM thing, like remember when everyone did America Online?
Yeah.
So I made that when I was like 11 years old, my Gmail, whatever. And I did that because, I was like in third grade, and we were learning about the rainforest unit. It's like they were like in grade school, it's like the rainforest in ancient Egypt, like just on an endless rotation. I don't know why it is that way, but that's how I remember it. Like it's just that focus all the time. And, we were learning like, man, there's all this deforestation, like the rainforest is like not doing well. Here's what you can do about it. And so Tropicana, the orange juice company, ran this promotion where they were like, hey, if you scan the code on the back of our carton, we'll conserve like 5 acres of Amazon rainforest or something, right? And so I saw that. I'm like, I love orange juice. And I was like, Mom, Dad, this is it. Like, I've found the solution. We're going to save the rainforest if I just drink enough orange juice. That's the way that it's going to happen. But to participate, I need to make an email address. So I made that email because Save the Trees was taken. So I did 133. I don't know why. And, I think I probably chugged like 10 cartons or something. And then I was like, it doesn't feel so good to save the rainforest this way, Mom. And I don't know. So I should have. This is a much better strategy.
Well, there is a debate out there that actually says that planting trees is not as impactful as saving trees, as protecting trees.
Sure.
And, that's something that I've definitely looked into a little bit. It's, it's complicated. It's all really complicated.
Well, you're doing infinitely more than anyone who doesn't tie those kind of outcomes to the success of the bit. Like, that's a debate. The fact that you're even curious about that question is like, I would take what's better, no trees planted or saved, or 100 trees planted.
100.
That's my view.
40,000.
I don't care if it's even like marginally less effective, right? Like that's my view.
We're doing something,
right?
We're doing something, and it's not that hard to do. You just build it into your cost structure, right? Any business out there could, we have obviously large purchases, so 100 trees makes sense for us. It's a $1 a tree with 1 tree planted.
Yeah,
they have very low overhead as an organization. So the idea came. Are you familiar with Warby Parker's kind of get one give one with the glasses?
Oh yeah, a little bit.
And then the Toms does it with the shoes, right? Like some of those things are complicated, right, in terms of the impact on local communities. But that's why we really like to support the North American projects,
right?
So that we're not like unwittingly supporting imperialism or
there's a giant pile of T-shirts somewhere in Africa. It's like, this is not helpful,
right?
That's a legitimate. I went down that road for a while. One of my original like interests in higher ed was like international poverty alleviation and like the developing world, and I know people who like work in that space. Like a good friend of mine lives and works in rural Uganda.
Yep. Wow.
Doing like really cool stuff. But it's you're right to be skeptical of like a lot of the kind of the established like charitable and again, I'm just like a layperson who like read a book about it, so I'm an expert obviously, but it's complicated.
It is.
It's really, really complicated when you're here and you're a well-intentioned person who was born into a really wealthy country and we have opportunities, and it's like, great, I know it's not like this everywhere. How do I channel what I have into a net positive for someone on the other side of the world, right? It's complicated, but it's good that you ask, right? A lot of people don't care.
Well, and that's the question that, I asked myself is like, what do I know how to do? I was in wheelchair accessible vans for about 12 years, which was also good work.
Oh, wow.
Yeah, I did that. So I started my career after college working in nonprofits, serving people with disabilities. Like I worked for Easter Seals for many years, which was great. And a couple other nonprofits. It was great work. Worked in the transportation departments for them as a trainer, as a program manager, things like that. And then made the switch after about 10 years to sell wheelchair accessible vans.
Right.
That company. So quite frankly, I had started a family. I needed to make more money. So went into selling cars. Wheelchair cars though, which was great. And, then kind of made the transition to this. It was natural because I was like, okay, I have to do something about climate. I went back to get my master's in sustainability, my MBA in sustainability from Antioch. It was fabulous online program.
Yeah.
It's really great. I had a very demanding job, but I was able to complete that. And, as part of that, I went from being like concerned about climate change to being somewhat terrified about what's going to happen. Like,
You're like, whoa.
oh yeah, me and my wife, we like started like researching, like, could we afford a prepper cabin in
Sure.
Vermont? Like, we're gonna need some land, when the climate zombies come to eat our brains.
New England's, I mean, protect our winters and all that. Like we're I'm not saying it's like all great, but there are worse places to be
Yes.
if you're looking on the 100-year time horizon.
It's going to be it's a climate refuge.
Yeah.
In some respects,
Yeah,
like
yeah,
we're
yeah.
not going to get the worst of the droughts or anything.
Right.
And so, you take what you have, what you're good at, and to loop back on the used car salesman thing, it's like, no, I didn't necessarily like always dream of being a used car salesman, but
Right.
like on some level, it's like buying a car should be fun.
Right.
Like, and cars are kind of cool, man. And,
Yeah.
and so like you just find what you're good at and you got to throw everything into it. That's what I did. Like that was the thing. Like, in order to do this, I had to empty out my 401k.
Yeah.
I had to call my dad and say, hey man, you want to come out of retirement and throw some money into this?
Yeah.
And then
He's really nice, by the way. I met him.
Yeah,
earlier
you met him.
today.
He's a
Yeah.
good dude, right? He's a good dude.
Met Oreo.
Yep.
Wonderful dog.
Oreo,
Yeah.
great dog. We're a very dog friendly dealership right here. Another thing that sets us apart. And just put it all out there and have some faith that it's going to work. And you never know that it's going to work, but
Right.
you put your faith into it. You work on it every day. And I've been really blessed and lucky to get the support of so many members of the community who have
Yeah.
decided they want to go EV. you
Well,
know?
that's kind of how we met. Actually, was at the the New Hampshire Businesses for Social Responsibility Slam. I think
Yeah.
I'd heard of like Green Wave in some capacity. Wish I had earlier. Like, I'm getting the word out right now, but like, boy, I wish I'd met you a year ago. I'm glad I have my car, but like, to come here, I think I would have had a different experience.
Yeah.
I would have had a better experience than the place that I got it, and that's all I'm going to say about that. But yeah, no, you emceed the Slam event where a bunch of companies who are members come and talk about like eco-friendly sustainability stuff that they're doing, and you did a really wonderful job.
Oh, thank you.
You did a great job.
Thank you.
Well,
I'll tell you a little bit about. I want to put in a plug for NHBSR.
Please do.
For anybody who doesn't know, I mean, it is the premier business networking and advocacy organization in the state, and really in at least New Hampshire, Maine, and Massachusetts, where you can come together and meet professionals of all stripes, all backgrounds, who are interested in making the world a better place.
Yeah.
And we work on, through our events, through our programs, we work on, climate, we work on education, we work on mental health in the workplace, we work on housing issues, we do advocacy at the state level. And probably most important, we have a bunch of events that are wicked fun to meet and connect with other people. So, and there's a bunch of working groups like on different projects. I'm on the Measure What Matters working group.
that's what the survey's out.
That's what the survey's out. Measure What Matters, where you can actually get for your company like a sustainability survey and a customized report that'll help tell you where you stack up against other New Hampshire businesses,
Right.
and how to get better. So, I mean, when I learned about NHBSR from Atlanta McElwraith, who our kids were friends, this was 7 years ago.
Yeah.
And like getting involved with it, it's been the best professional organization I've been a part of, and I've been a part of a lot. So
Yeah.
if you're a member of the chamber or Rotary or anything like that, and you want something that's a little bit more sustainability focused,
Right.
NHBSR.org, check it out. So that's awesome. But part of the reason that I'm good at, and I'll be honest, thank you for telling me, I'm pretty good at like emceeing, right?
I was going to say, you seem like a guy who really is into hip hop.
Yeah.
Or who knows a lot about
Well,
hip hop music.
I did. So
You're very stylish.
I
You've
was-
got your shoes. You got your hat.
I was a rapper for many years.
Are you? You have to. Don't. No one was a rapper, Jesse. You rapped at the thing.
I did.
You did like some slam
that was a
poetry.
spoken word, yeah, slam poetry. Yep, exactly. So I lived in New York City for many years, and I was there actually during 9/11.
No kidding.
And in the wake of 9/11, I got involved in the anti-war movement, and I got connected with these activists and artists. And I joined an activist and artist collective that we led a lot of the protests, and a lot of these guys were rappers, and I learned how to freestyle with them, and that evolved for many years. And I don't know, do you into hip hop at all? You know, like
As much as like I love Wu-Tang.
Wu-Tang.
And,
Aesop Rock?
yeah.
Okay. So, he did an album with Homeboy Sandman?
I did not know that.
So he just recently did an album with Homeboy Sandman, and my son is into Homeboy Sandman right now.
Okay.
He's like an underground rapper kind of in that vein.
yeah.
I used to rap. I'm on tracks with Homeboy Sandman
Get
from
outta
back in the
here.
day. Yeah, totally. So like,
So your son must think you're super cool, obviously, right?
oh yeah, oh yeah. Well, look, and Aesop Rock. So my daughter, because later on I started a family hip hop band.
That's
And
really
so I
cool,
rapped with
actually.
them. And so my daughter's a huge Gorillaz fan.
Yeah.
She loves the Gorillaz. And when I told her that she was 5 degrees of separation from Gorillaz
Right.
because she had rapped with me, I had rapped with Homeboy Sandman. Homeboy Sandman had rapped with Aesop Rock. Aesop Rock rapped with Del the Funky Homo Sapien.
Right.
And Del the Funky Homo Sapien rapped on Gorillaz. She was like,
Oh my God. That's actually, I mean, I'm getting the same feeling right now, if for no other reason than, I don't know if you know, he's not really a rapper, but there's it's kind of like the ugly spin-off son of rap is this genre lo-fi music.
Yeah.
Right. And the grandfather of lo-fi is this Japanese artist Nujabes, who, was this really interesting guy. And he did the music along with, I think, a guy named Fat John or something. But there was this anime Samurai Champloo that like incorporated a bunch of rap music. And, I'm really interested in that intersection of like martial arts and hip hop.
Yeah.
Like what the Wu-Tang, like that's their whole thing. And,
Yup.
this idea that like your kung fu, this martial actionable skill can be expressed through like words and creativity as that like is
Yes.
my rap kung fu better than your kung fu. And, so I think that whole world is like really, really awesome and
Totally.
fascinating.
Take it back to the 36 chambers, man.
Wait, so how, I should have asked you this first.
Yeah.
I just like talking to you so much. What are you doing here? Like, how did this anti-war rap activist end up in the Granite State?
Yeah. So I'm originally from New Hampshire. I grew up in Manchester.
Yeah.
I went to high school in Londonderry. And then I
Wait,
went.
what?
Yeah. Class of 2000, baby.
Are you kidding?
Are you Londonderry?
Yeah.
LHS, what's your class?
2013.
Product of LSD. There we
Lancer
go. District Lancer Nation.
Oh my God. You
There
weren't
we
in
go.
the band, were you?
Andy Susi, man. Yeah. Marched in
pardon
the
my
tournament.
French. I'm not going to swear. I shouldn't swear. But get out of here.
Tournament of Roses Parade 1996.
Tournament of Roses 2012.
Yeah, dude. There we go. What's your instrument?
Drums.
Yeah. The drum line was always dope. I was a trumpet player, so
Trumpets are great.
trumpets are great. Yeah, I mean, Lancer's classic.
That's
man.
fantastic.
There we go. There's a
I've been
connection.
thinking I should get Andy Susi on because he finally did retire.
Did he?
A couple of years ago. Yeah, finally.
Because he was.
Well deserved.
I was gonna say, like, he seemed like on in years when I was in high school in like
Yeah.
96 to 2000.
Yeah,
so
I think he was a long career for that guy.
good for him.
But
Good
what
for
an
him.
impact.
Oh my God, amazing
I
impact.
mean, look at like you
for years.
changed my life being in that music program.
It did.
Seriously.
Absolutely. Well, it really give you. We talk about empowerment, right? It gave you a feeling of place, a feeling of meaning, a feeling of being on a team, right?
yeah.
Like some folks, if they're not into athletic sports, right?
Right.
How else do you get to learn those things? But I remember band camp was 3 sessions and football was only 2 sessions.
Yeah.
We were working harder than the football players.
It was hard.
Yeah.
But it was fun,
It was
and,
great.
And to get to go and do, like, you get to go to California with your friends. Like,
Oh yeah.
man, no wonder we get along so well. We're both.
There we go. Both from Lancer Nation.
I can't believe that.
yeah.
Okay, so that's great.
So
You're
that
as
was-
New Hampshire as
Came
me.
out of there, yep, and then lived in New York from 2000 to 2010.
Yeah.
I met my wife, actually, she was living on the Upper West Side, but we met at Star Island at the Isles of Shoals
Yeah.
during a summer conference in 2007. And then we about a year later we got married, and then we had kids, and then like 2010 rolls around and we're like, all of our friends are young and none of them want to have kids, and New York City was fun when we had no kids and
Right.
plenty of money, and now we have 2 kids and no money.
Yeah.
And so we moved back up here to be closer to family.
Yeah.
And Portsmouth, fantastic. And so that's kind of how I ended up here. But New Hampshire is awesome, man. It's
Yeah.
a really just such a great. I feel blessed every day to wake up in Portsmouth, New Hampshire, and be on the seacoast. And you live up in the Whites, man. Those are gorgeous too.
I love every part of the state.
Yeah.
You know, and it's been
Well, not Nashua.
yeah, except Nashua. You know, and I've spent a lot of time in Nashua. Nah, they have some really
No,
good music
Nashua's
in
cool.
Nashua.
Nashua's cool.
Yeah, well, you know, tell me about like this. I'm really jazzed to be talking to you because, again, you are a really good, like, again, granted goodness example of like, wait, like if you talk to, honestly, a lot of people from New Hampshire, but even people not from New Hampshire, right, who kind of have this opinion of it as like, what the hell's going on up there? It's the state in the middle of nowhere, you know, it's one giant suburb of Boston, not that many people. Like, how on earth is a you know, electric vehicle dealership doing in New Hampshire, right? Like, and attempting to do that here, right, is like, I think to some people they would say that's controversial, but sounds like you're doing pretty well.
We are.
Yeah.
We are. I mean, we don't have any incentives on the state level. Like Massachusetts, you can get $3,500. Maine, you can get $2,500. Vermont, there's all kinds of incentives. We don't have any of those, and it's a cold state. So, you know,
Right.
EVs in the winter, their range is reduced,
Yeah.
right? I would argue that they perform better than an ICE car in the winter. And, you know, you have a pretty split population. And the stats show that electric vehicle adoption is much higher with people who are politically liberal, progressive,
Right.
or, you know, or even further to the left than on the right. And so it's not a slam dunk
Right.
kind of territory for EVs, and the infrastructure in New Hampshire. It's jokingly the EV donut hole, EV charging donut hole.
It is lacking,
Yeah, it's lacking.
but you can do it. It's just, you know, we want it to be better.
Yeah, no, it should be a lot, but let's put it this way: you can easily get around the state in a 200-mile EV.
Yeah.
That's not a problem. But there should be more chargers.
Yeah,
right.
100%.
So, but by getting it done here, I mean, I'll be honest with you, Andy. Part of the reason I did it here, when I was thinking about the idea, there were better parts of the country that would be more ripe for my business,
Sure.
right? Like Florida or Texas or whatever. But like, this is my home.
Yeah.
I'm so connected and rooted to this place, even though I've lived other places in the world. And so, like, I feel an obligation to make an impact in my home. In fact, one moment from my activism days back in New York City, I remember there was this woman, Rosa Clemente. We were at a No Police State rally, and we were all cheering and rooting. And at one point, she goes, "Now I want to talk to all you white people out there."
Yeah.
And I'm like,
You're like, that's me.
That's me.
I'm listening.
we're up in the Bronx, you know, and she was like, "It's all great that you're here and whatnot, but you look around. This is a black neighborhood.
Right.
You need to go back to your white neighborhoods and talk about racial justice
Sure.
and how police are killing people in the ghettos and the environmental impact of, you know, our society's decisions on asthma for kids in the Bronx, you know." And you know, that I didn't immediately pack my bags and move back to New Hampshire, but that stuck
Right.
with me. And it's like, I feel a connection. I've got connections. I speak the language of people around here, you
Right.
know? And so, all right, you know what? Even if it's not the easiest place to start an EV dealership,
Right.
it needs it too.
It's a place that you could have a lot of impact.
And I could have more impact
Right.
because I've got the connections
Yeah.
to people.
Well, and it's, you know, I mean, I would argue, and I love that story, by the way, you know, the greater the mountain, the greater the view, right? Like,
there you go.
you know, it's all these reasons. I'm sure you could write a really great book about like all the reasons you shouldn't. Do not start an EV dealership in New Hampshire, right? And yet you're here, and you know you're the center of like a beautiful, you know, community, and like all these people, like all these, like, you know, you've made it happen. And I know it's not. I mean, again, we were talking before we started chatting. Like, it's been fun just to be here, you know, setting up my stuff here in the shop, like. Just in like the little bit of eavesdropping that I'm doing, like you have solved like 1,000 problems today. Just people being like, "Oh, there's like rodent damage in the car, and like, what do we do about that?" And like, you know, and they're like, yeah, we'll just, you know, we'll figure it out. You know, like all these things.
Oh yeah.
Yeah.
Well, and that's because, you know, we do we take care of it. I mean, that's, the cars, I often tell people this, right? Cars, because they are made by the hands of people, they are not infallible.
Right.
Right. And so there are going to be things wrong with them. And, the truth is we get cars in from a variety of different sources. Most of them we get off lease from the manufacturer.
Right.
And then we have our shop go through them extensively, and we provide a 30-day, 1,000-mile warranty on them. And for the most part, nothing fails. But if it does, we write the check and we're good to go. We have extended warranties that cover it. But then it's like tough. It's real tough situations, right? Like this. So this customer that you were talking about, they bought a car from us about a month ago.
Yeah.
Right. They live way out in the boondocks in Maine, and we actually fetch customers. Like, people travel to see us.
Wow.
Like they live about 3 hours away, like outside of Bangor.
That's out there
in the woods. Like 30, 45 minutes outside of Bangor is where they live, like way out there. And so they bought a car from us, and then like a week later,
where did they charge it?
Oh yeah, they charge it at their house.
Yeah, no, good for them.
But like a week after, I mean, this is I struggle with. So a week after they bought it, they call us up and they say, "Oh, we just got a message that says electrical system failure. See a dealer immediately." And they take it to a dealer, and they just had the appointment, and the dealer tells them, "Well, there's rodent damage. There's somebody been chewing on your car."
Right.
And so they're like, "Well, it's under our 30-day, 1,000-mile warranty. Wants you to cover all the," and like, I'm like, okay.
Yeah.
Now, is that now I very highly doubt that rodent damage, A, was here when the car got to us,
right,
and B, happened because we actually didn't even have that car for 2 weeks. We got it in, got it through, got it ready, and sold it. So, but that message would have come on. So, like, did they drive it up there, park it in their house in the woods, have some rodents chew on it,
right,
and then they want us to pay for it? I don't know. Here's the problem. This is the kind of company we are. We're going to pay for it.
Right.
So, which at times has been tough. And sometimes we do have to say no, too. Like, there are people who have, like, our warranty doesn't cover tires.
Yeah.
There are people who've gotten a flat tire 28 days after they bought from us and called us up and they said they want. And I can't cover a flat. I can't warranty your tires.
Yeah, sorry.
So we do deal with that. But the other piece of this is, and you kind of alluded to this, sometimes people walk in here guns blazing.
Right.
Like, they expect us to be car dealer a-holes.
Sure.
And so they really, throwing some sharp elbows
they've got
around.
a copy of the Constitution in their pocket. And,
exactly.
all these things.
Exactly. It's nuts. Yeah. And we, we learn how to disarm them a little bit. But on some level, like, I don't play that game.
Right.
Like, you want to come kick a car dealer in the butt, I don't know, we're not going to be a good fit for you.
Yeah, right.
We're not going to be a good match.
You should just, what you should do? This would be really funny, and this is a dumb idea actually, but like, you get a big punching bag, you hang it from the ceiling, and you put like a picture of you on it. It's just like, listen, we'll talk through whatever your issue is, but here he is. You can do whatever you want to punching bag Jesse. Kick the crap out of it.
Our customers don't usually get that heated, but now that you say that, I'm thinking it would be wicked funny if I could be like, all right, hold on, have a button on the wall and just press it, and then you hear the here. I got to go do something. Have your way with this guy.
Right.
We'll talk in about 10 minutes.
It seems like the sort of thing that you would do. Like, it seems on brand for like what the kind of stuff you do here.
I dig.
Yeah. Well, I do think though that's actually like it's a business strategy that I think is what I like about NHBSR. Like, I think everyone in there is like they look at the world and they look at business kind of similarly to you, right? In like this non-zero sum way of like, look, there are plenty of companies out there that would, it would be like pulling teeth to get them, and they will give you every argument of the book for like, I'm not liable for that. Nope, we're not gonna, and yeah, plenty of times you can't. It's not a charity. You can't do that. You got to run a business, right?
Right. People
are understanding of that generally, I feel like. But, there is this kind of alternative way, right, of thinking about business and community as kind of interlinked, right? And it's like, I think you're smart in taking the longer view of like, look, this is a part of New England that we maybe don't get a lot of business from. Mm-hmm. I don't even know how many people in that region of Maine have EVs, are thinking of getting EVs, right? But if we can give this one person, right, and everyone, but if we can give this person who's having a rough thing, we can give them a great experience. I can't predict how that's going to benefit us later. It's going to benefit them today, but like, that probably is going to come back for you
Totally.
in some way.
No, totally. And look, so and that happens on multiple levels. Like, you're familiar with the term circular economy.
Yeah.
Right?
Yeah.
So circular economy is critical for us. It's big for us because cars are a lot of resources, right? Batteries are a lot of resources. So there's two levels of this, right? One level is, yes, for a new EV owner, we don't want to make it hard for them.
Right.
Right? Because then they're going to be like, you know what? I don't like EVs. I'm not going to do an EV again. And then we've ruined them for life.
Yeah.
On EVs. So we don't want to do that. So we want to make it easy for them. We want to take care of them there. But then on the circular economy piece, sometimes we get cars in. And look, do we like buying cars from auctions and from other dealers? No.
Right.
We would prefer to buy them just all off lease or on trades or people's.
Right.
But like, the reality is, we're a new business. Like, there's nowhere else for us to get cars,
Right.
right? So we go through them extensively. We check to make sure we're good. We certify them, et cetera, et cetera.
Yeah.
So that's all. But every once in a while, we get a car in that has some undisclosed problems.
Yeah.
And we can go after the seller for some of the costs and everything. But our philosophy on this has really that we have an opportunity to keep this, amalgamation of the Earth's resources
Yeah.
in use for longer.
Right.
So if we fix it up a little bit, right? And sometimes what that means is, we pay wholesale market value. We list it. We can only sell it for what the market will fetch,
Right.
right? Which is like market value. And consumers have a lot of tools to tell them what market value is. So we can
Yeah.
always, let's say we buy a car for 22.
Right.
And we put it online for 24.
Yeah.
Right. And that's roughly where our margins are on average.
Right.
And then we find out that there's some type of damage to it that we have no recourse on. Now
Right.
we own it.
Yeah.
And it costs us $3,000.
Right.
So we can't sell it for more because we fixed that.
Right.
So we're going to sell it and lose $1,000.
Right.
And so that hurts. It hurts our business.
Right.
Now, we're in a position now where we're able to cover that, and it happens that infrequently that we can
Right.
cover that expense. But like, we see doing that as our duty to the circular economy,
Yeah.
keeping that car rather than just passing it on to somebody else, making it their problem,
Right.
hastening its trip to
Yeah.
the junkyard,
Right.
which we could talk about end of life for cars. That's kind of an interesting category
Right.
in itself. But what we're doing, we're just a way station on that circular economy road because these cars are going to last a really long time, bro.
Yeah.
The batteries.
Right. The tech is like pretty good now. Yeah.
Yeah. Like they say the batteries, we've seen even less than this deteriorate like 1% per year. And
I haven't noticed a change at all.
And you
right.
haven't changed any.
Right.
So, and really with the newest cars, like in the last 3 years, like you're going to see no change in first 3 to 5 years
Right.
in a lot of these. And their end of life when they hit 70% of their original capacity.
It's still a lot of. I hope to use mine until it's like falling apart. Like that's the goal.
I think, dude, if you want to get into a staring contest with a car, like try an EV. Like it'll take you there, man.
Yeah.
It'll get you there. Like I think these cars are going to last 25, 30 years
Yeah. Yeah.
or more.
Well, I really like how you framed that, right? Of like, it's this really cool combination of like, sure, there's, the environmental, right? But like, even I think ecology is a more appropriate way to think about it, right? Because there's how you're viewing, as you said, like the temporary combination of, the lithium and silicon and, metals assembled into this car at this time, right? And like, how do we keep that alive and useful as long as possible for people and for the planet, right? But it's also like you're viewing your relationship in the web of human beings, right? In like the local economy and the greater economy, like in the same way, right? Of, hey, we could take a small loss, and sell, go through the trouble to make sure every car that we sell is like really, really good. Or you could do what I'm sure a bunch of other people do, which is find every nasty little sneaky trick in the book to obfuscate and hide, that something's wrong with the car and that it probably shouldn't be sold for the price that it is. And like, then that's why people say used car salesman. That's why they say it.
Oh, because Andy, let me tell you, as a small business owner, like that hurts. Like you think about it, like, so I've got 50 cars on my lot right now.
Right.
And every time I buy one of those cars, I'm making a bet that I
Right.
can get it into great shape and sell it and make some type of a profit.
Yeah.
And that hasn't always been the case.
Right.
And when we were first getting started, there's a lot of price fluctuations, and we sold some cars and we ended up having to lose because of price fluctuations and
Right.
or problems. Sold $3,000, $4,000, $5,000 lost when you sell a car. That's hard to take.
Yeah, for
Like,
sure.
you got to really like believe in what you're doing
Yeah.
in order to be like, okay, it's the right thing. We're going to make a happy customer. We're going to keep this car on the road. It's going
Right.
to make, like, you got to really have some faith in what you're doing in order for that to happen.
Yeah.
And it was hard. It was hard when we had to do that, but we luckily made it through, and we luckily have gotten enough support from our community to say that we're okay.
Right.
We're going to make it. I mean, nobody's getting rich over here. We're just
Right.
covering our bases, but it's enough to grow our impact.
Yeah.
Because they say no margin, no mission.
Right. Yeah.
You know?
And, you know, the impact of selling one really bad car to a person, right? Like it's kind of the inverse of, I tell this dumb story every time I do an episode, but I can't help it, right? There's that like story of like, there's all the starfish that wash up on shore, and there's like an old dude on the beach. I don't know what he's doing there, but he's like picking up the starfish and he's throwing them back in the ocean, and then some, you know, mean dude walks by and he's like, "What are you doing? You'll never make a difference. You'll never save all the starfish." And then the old guy's like, "Well, it made a difference to that one, and that one, and that one, right?" And it's like, you know, so I think I wish more people thought about business in the way that you do, right? Because it's not just, yeah, sure, it's a balance sheet. You have to make the numbers add up, but you know, it's 100% of the car that every person's buying, right? And the long-term effect of like every car we sell here, we know that it works. We know that it's really, really good, and we give people a great experience. Like, it's like a snowball.
Yeah.
And I'm sure that, like, you know, you could tell endless stories of like, it comes back. Because you're like, I'd much rather consistently deliver good results for people rather than be like, you know what, if this person doesn't have a good time, we'll just let them go. It's like, well, that's going to spread like wildfire. You know?
It's critical every single time. Now, look, we're humans, we're a small business, we have limited resources.
Yeah.
So not everything lives up to our standards, but we have very high standards.
Right.
And so, you know, we pretty consistently have people tell us, like, as they're like leaving, they're like, you know, I just have to tell you, this has been the greatest car buying experience I've ever had. And we're
Right.
like, oh, thank you. That's great. But like, we know because we work really hard to make it that way.
Yeah.
And it's not by, here's the crazy thing. It's not by like, you know, balloons and confetti
And a bunch of
like,
candy. Yeah.
and like expensive espresso. Like it's not that. It's just like genuine, authentic care
Yeah.
and communication of why we're doing this, and you know, caring about everything that we do,
Right.
And understanding that, like, and being like extremely respectful of the fact that like transportation is critical to people's quality of life,
Yeah.
and quality, reliable transportation. You know, so many people spend so much time in their car.
Right.
And so, like, you know, the fact that people are allowing us into that decision for their life, like being respectful of that,
Yeah.
and then being like mutually excited with them to get an awesome car. So
Right.
it's like all that engagement and authenticity that I think my whole team shares, which is fabulous.
Right.
And that's at the core of what we do. And I think that seeps out to people.
Yeah.
And, you know, as we grow, that'll be one of our biggest challenges. But, you know, as long as we stay connected to the mission, I think it's easier to, and that's, you know, who we hire are people who are connected to the mission.
Yeah.
It's not people who are from the car business.
Right.
You know, and I explicitly, you know, I'm not looking for people who are from the car business.
Yeah. Who've maybe had the training or, you know, socialization to think about their relationships with clients in a certain way
Yeah.
when it comes to cars, right?
Yeah, I wouldn't rule anybody out who had worked in the car business, but you know, they're bad habits.
Yeah.
And bad habits are hard to break, and so and like fresh eyes are also important. Like whenever you come to something new, you have like an opportunity to grasp it in a new
Yeah.
way. So that's
Yeah.
been exciting. We'll probably be hiring in the spring. So if anybody who's keep an eye on our website.
Are you listening, college students or friends of mine?
There we go.
All right. Well, Jesse, is there anything we're at about all the time that
Oh my goodness.
I made you?
That went fast, dude.
Are you kidding? Yeah, they always goes fast. Always goes fast. Yeah, we've been talking for 1 hour exactly. I have good timing.
Okay, cool.
Well, I'm going to ask you if there's anything that you really want to talk about.
There's one more thing. Okay, so when is this going to air?
When you want it to air.
Okay, it's January.
Yeah.
So there's this used EV tax credit. It's 30% of the purchase price of a car up to $4,000. It was part of the Inflation Reduction Act. It's
Yeah.
targeted at people who make $75,000 or less, or $150,000 or less, married filing jointly. $4,000 on a car that's EV that's under $25,000. That's like $100 a month in a car payment these days.
Right.
And there are so many awesome cars that we have, including that ID4 right next to you. You see that?
Can I give it a little smack? Or
Yeah, please. Yeah, there we go. That's that car. That was a $50,000 car in 2021. It's got 40,000 miles on it now, so it's a $25,000 car, and you get $4,000 off as your down payment.
Are you kidding me?
No, it's gorgeous. It's ID4 Pro.
What's the range on this car?
270? Yeah.
I should have gotten this car.
Smoke it, right?
It's an awesome car.
Well, it last year it wasn't, so it's okay. I'll take that one on trade.
Yeah.
We'll deal with it. But my point is the tax credit.
Right.
The incoming administration has said that they're going to be getting rid of the EV tax credits.
There's an opportunity right now that people can capitalize
Can
on.
get
Right.
$4,000 from
Yeah.
the feds, and so I would really suggest you look at the car that you have now, because a lot of people say, "Oh, you know what though? I'm going to have my car for another 2 years."
Right.
But your car has equity right now as a trade-in. Right, so if you were gonna go EV and then for your next car anyway,
Right.
and you qualify for this tax credit, and you don't have to come to Greenwave. That's not even what I'm telling.
Right.
I want your listeners to know. Find a dealer that does the tax credit, and think about really making the switch now, because it's free money that you're not gonna have forever.
Right. All right.
Cool.
Well, I'm glad people are getting the message. Jesse, what makes you optimistic about the future of your work? I mean, the whole episode just makes me optimistic.
Yeah, there's a lot that makes me optimistic. I got to tell you, my kids make me optimistic. They're 14 and 15, and they're smarter than me, and they have good ideas for the future. I think the people who I meet who are really committed to making an impact make me optimistic for the future. And every time I get in one of these cars and stomp on the accelerator and just zoom, right? I'm like, this is so much fun.
Yeah.
That makes me optimistic, because these cars are, yes, they help you save money. Yes, they help save the planet, but they're just more fun.
Yeah, they're better.
They're better.
They're better. Yeah.
They're better. And so I think that the more people experience this, the more they'll tell other people that.
Yeah.
And the more that other folks will be like, oh yeah, it's a car. It's not politics, and it's
Yeah.
I should just get one of these because
Right.
it's just better.
Yeah. Yeah. No, I mean, an understated. Yeah, I'm curious about your take on this, and I know I can geek out about these all day with you, but I've heard that an underappreciated or an unexpected benefit of EVs that happened in the market was that people can idle them, right? Particularly in really hot climates, like in Arizona, where there are these rules around you can't idle your gas car,
Right.
because of all these things. But if you have an EV, you can keep it on, and it'll keep it cool, and it's just electricity, And I do this constantly, and my wife is still. It's maybe not the most efficient thing to do all the time, but the fact that I can just turn it on, and I can keep my dogs in it at a comfortable temperature for however long. I can leave them in there. They'll take a nap for an hour. It just really opens up all these possibilities.
Totally.
In terms of what you can do, and the future is bright. That's what I'll say. It's a really cool thing.
Amen, Andy.
Yeah.
Let's keep it idle.
All right. Well, thank you very much for your time, Jesse.
Thank
Be great
you.
to have you on again. Let us know what's all the fun and newest and greatest things happening at Greenwave. But thank you for your time.
Thanks for what you're doing. Love Granite goodness. Keep it up, man.
Yeah, thanks. Hey there, thanks for spending some time with us, and I hope you enjoyed the conversation. You can learn more about today's guest and how to get involved with or support their work in the show notes. If you'd like to suggest a guest for the show or have any story tips for our Good News in New Hampshire newsletter, shoot me a message at hello@granitegoodness.com. Music for this episode was provided by the band Sneaky Miles, who hail from Newmarket, New Hampshire. Until next time, I'm the creator and host of Granite Goodness, Andy DeMeo. Thanks for listening.